world of superhero movies has always had an intriguing aspect to it and its fan base and has been huge for decades. Nowadays, every child knows everything about his or her favorite hero, with the classics Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman being particularly popular, of course. The universe of superhero movies is shared by three studios: Disney with the MCU and its ex-competitor Fox, Sony with Spider-Man, Venom and Co, and finally Warner with all the DC movies. Today, we want to give you an overview of 9 superhero movies worth looking forward to, so enjoy our latest Originals episode. The first Marvel movie since Spider-Man Far From Home is titled Black Widow and marks the beginning of Phase 4 of the MCU. Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, fought her last spectacular battle in Avengers Endgame. Through her selfless dedication to the Avengers, she secured a place in the hearts of many fans. Her appearance, however, leaves quite a few questions regarding her backstory, which is why Marvel's Black Widow, after several postponements of the release date, now wants to address and clarify exactly these questions this May. The focus is on her activities as a spy and hitwoman for the Russian Secret Service KGB. However, Romanoff is not the only Black Widow there. For instance, she befriends the young Yelena Belova. Encounters with Melinda and Alexei Shostakov, who as Red Guardian was something like the Russian Captain America, also play a major role in the life of the young Natasha Romanoff. The cast is pretty top-notch, with Florence Pugh as Yelena, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, David Harbour as Alexei Shostakov, and Rachel Weisz as Melina Vostokov. Behind the camera, 52-year-old Kate Shortland will be directing. We are definitely excited about the start of Phase 4 of the MCU and are already looking forward to the expected release date of Black Widow on May 7th, 2021. The next movie on our list is Marvel's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. The focus is on Shang-Chi, who's also called the Master of Kung Fu. In contrast to the big names like Captain America or Spider-Man, Shang-Chi is still relatively unknown in the MCU. As early as his childhood, the son of Fu Manchu already trained in martial arts. He's thus superior to many MCU colleagues thanks to his perfect mastery of a wide variety of martial arts, even without superpowers. It then turns out in the comics that Shang-Chi's father is actually a villain who wants to take over the world. Whether the film takes up this circumstance on a one-to-one basis is of course a different question. The cast so far includes Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, Tony Leung Chiu-Wai as Mandarin, as well as Awkwafina, Ronnie Chieng, Michelle Yeoh in yet unknown roles. The Marvel blockbuster will be directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who had his breakthrough with the indie hit short-term 12 Silent Heroes. The release of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is scheduled for July 9th, 2021. Even before the release of Suicide Squad in 2016, it was clear to those responsible that they would produce a sequel. After a chaotic back and forth with the filming and the departure of David Ayer as director, clarity really only arose when filming was to begin in September 2019 under the new direction of James Gunn. But since the DC fandom, it is now officially quite clear who will be in which role in front of the camera. Returning from the first part will be Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, and Jay Courtney as Captain Boomerang. New additions will include Idris Elba as Bloodsport, John Cena as Peacemaker, David Dastmalchian as Polka Dot Man, and many others. Apparently, even Thor director Taika Waititi will be playing a yet unknown role. Unfortunately, as for the storylines, so far they are not as forthcoming as with the announcement of the cast. All we know is that James Gunn sees the project as kind of intellectual sequel to the original comic book series. Therefore, it doesn't seem necessary to have seen the first part of the Suicide Squad. The movie is expected to release on August 4th, 2021. Our next film is called Morbius from Sony. The story revolves around Michael Morbius, a biochemist played by Jared Leto who suffers from a rare blood disease and tries to cure himself through self-experimentation. Of course, the whole thing goes horribly wrong and Morbius contracts a form of vampirism. In the comics, this is accompanied by typical vampire traits such as rampant blood consumption and aversion to sunlight, the ability to fly, and superhuman fighting and healing abilities. On his somewhat tragic path through life, he later meets Spider-Man and joins the Legion of Monsters. In addition to his existence as a blood-sucking vampire, he's also a brilliant scientist who can even call a Nobel Prize for biochemistry his own. By the end of Spider-Man 3 at the latest, Peter Parker will finally return to Sony, which will make a long-awaited clash between Morbius and Peter Parker feasible for fans. The upcoming Morbius will be directed by Daniel Espinosa with a release date set for March 19th, 2021. Among many other films, the sequel to 2018's box office hit Venom called Venom There Be Carnage is coming up this year. In the second part, Sony's anti-hero will meet the villain Cletus Cassidy aka Carnage, who was previously teased in the first part. Just like Venom, Carnage is an alien symbiont that affects Cassidy and gives him even more mighty powers than his counterpart. But that's not all. The villain Shriek also has a say in the matter and attempts to give Venom a hard time with his superhuman sonic powers. With Tom Hardy as Venom, Michelle Williams as Anne Weying, Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy, and Naomi Harris as Shriek, the new DC movie should be more than well cast. There will be no stranger to the director's chair either, with the director being Andy Serkis. You can find out exactly how the confrontation between Venom and Carnage will end as from June 25th, 2021 in a cinema near you. We still have to wait over a year until the release of The Batman. Since the DC fandom in August in particular, it has become clear to many fans that the wait will most likely be worth it, after yet another postponement a few months ago. According to director Matt Reeves, the new blockbuster with The Dark Knight will be a mixture of mystery thriller and detective story. By solving many murders, the still young Bruce Wayne then comes into contact with a wide variety of supervillains. With Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle, Paul Dano as the Riddler, and Colin Farrell as the Penguin, The Dark Knight already has quite a few adversaries ahead of him, and those are just the most serious threats. Bringing all these characters together is certainly no easy task, but according to Reeves, it's one of the most challenging and exciting aspects of the new film. However, the whole thing is not meant to be a real origin story, because Reeves is not interested in showing how Bruce becomes Batman, but rather how he copes as a newcomer in the hostile world of Gotham City. Based on what the people involved say, the story will be very close to the comics, judging by the emphasis on Batman's ability as a detective. We are definitely eager to find out how Max Reeves and his team will implement the new story of the Batman, and we are looking forward to the release on March 4th, 2022. Fairly little is known about our next film, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, yet. In the recent past, the headlines surrounding the sequel to 2016's Doctor Strange have tended to revolve around the fact that original director Scott Derrickson left his post shortly before filming began, causing uncertainty in the production. Fortunately, however, the right man for the sequel was soon found with Sam Raimi, which is why the loss of Derrickson as a director remains bearable. The cast currently only includes Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, Chiwetel Ejiofor as Mordo, and Benedict Wong as Wong. An alleged villain is also said to have been found and named Nightmare, though this has not yet been officially confirmed. As producers, by the way, ex-director Scott Derrickson and Marvel boss Kevin Feige are also still involved. After a recent postponement of the film, the new release date for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is set for March 25th, 2022. The now fourth Thor film is called Love and Thunder and will be released shortly before The Batman in 2022. Star director Taika Waititi is responsible for the script and direction, while the cast includes Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and Christian Bale as the new villain. So far, it is unclear whether there will be a reunion with Tom Hiddleston as Loki. After all, he is currently still busy with his own MCU series. Meanwhile, in an interview with Yahoo, actress Natalie Portman revealed more details about her character Mighty Thor. She said that she started exercising since her character in the film is supposed to be very well-toned. She also confirmed that in Thor: Love and Thunder, Jane Foster has to cope with her existence as a superhero and a cancer patient at the same time. In contrast to Portman's casual chit-chat, director Taika Waititi has so far held back on confirming the cancer storyline. If Portman's statement is true, it would give the story significantly more depth, since it would make the boundary between superhero and ordinary mortal far more multifaceted. The release date for Thor: Love and Thunder is expected to be on February 18th, 2022. Now we come to the third part of the Homecoming series with the still untitled name Spider-Man 3. If you haven't seen Spider-Man Far From Home yet, then you should take a short break. The content is, of course, primarily about Tom Holland's new life as an outed superhero. Particularly tricky is the fact that not only does the whole world know his identity, but everybody also believes him to be a villain. Spider-Man 3 will be directed by John Watts. Returning to the roles will be Tom Holland as Peter Parker, Zendaya as MJ, and Marisa Tomei as May Parker. The signing of Jamie Foxx as the villain Electro caused quite a stir. After all, he's actually part of the Sony universe and not the MCU. To what extent the two universes will collide and whether the film will even lay the foundation for a brand new Sony universe can be found out as of December 17th, 2021. And That's it for today's Originals episode. Now it's your turn. Which movie are you looking forward to the most, and do you think its release date is realistic? Leave us a comment and see you next time.